What's up guys, Romsicle here, and this is the $45 i100000 TWS, and this is the $250 Airpods Pro. Want to know all the differences? Let's check them all out right now. Starting with the unboxing experience, they're very similar, but it's the subtle qualitative properties that really show you which one is the authentic version, but it's really what's inside the box that matters. Both come with some paperwork, a lightning to USB-C cable, and some different size ear tips, with the real ones being much more eloquent in material and shape. And finally, we have our competition side by side, and if you're interested in buying, links are going to be in the description down below. Starting with the charging case, they're extremely similar in size and shape, and if you've never seen real AirPods Pros before, the TWS looks perfect in almost every single way. It has an LED in the front, a metal hinge, tactile connect button on the back, and has a lightning port. It looks perfect, doesn't it? But when you move to the real deal, you see a lot of subtle differences. Starting off the front, the LED is a little different. It's a hole that's covered by a glossy surface, and it's not just a hole like on the TWS version. Check out the spacing between the body and the lid of the case. It's uniform all the way around, and that's when you see the metal hinge. It's a little bigger, with some stronger edges, and once again with some fairly consistent spacing all around. Not to mention, we also have the assembled in China etching right underneath, and everything else is practically the same. Then we move to the inside and bam, we instantly see a difference. Can you see the angle of the real AirPods Pros? It's much more aggressive than the slightly raised TWS version. But moving the buds out of the way, we can see that the hinge is different and is much bigger and sturdier on the real AirPods Pros. The headroom is also slightly different, and there's etching on the real AirPods while the TWS is blank. The lid on the real AirPods also fall back a little further, making it easier to keep open, while the TWS's version's hinge opens about 90 degrees, resulting in more annoying accidental closes. Another small detail is the magnet on the lids. Both have magnets to hold the case closed, but listen to the sound quality of each case. The connections underneath are also a little different and aren't compatible with each other's AirPods. As for connectivity, just like my review of the i1000 TWS, both of these cases bring up the animation prompts and show the battery life. But unlike the real AirPods Pros, the TWS version doesn't show accurate battery life, which is a struggle because you never know if you need to charge your buds or not. Both AirPods work with Android, but the TWS version has some issues that make it randomly pause the audio, and I'm pretty sure it's because of these sensors. Finally, we have the AirPods themselves, and immediately you can see the difference. The ear tips, the stem tip, and the microphone grills are all different. Starting with the ear tips, this is the biggest giveaway. The AirPods Pros actually have proprietary ear tips, meaning only Apple's own ear tips will fit with the AirPods Pros. It's actually extremely interesting to see this kind of ear tip design. They're soft and malleable, and unlike any ear tips I've ever felt. They also have an oval shape to them, so they direct sound perfectly into your ear canals. Whereas the TWS pair just has a regular tip with regular earbuds that attach just like any other regular pair of earphones. And they cover a little further back, and they sometimes end up getting squished a little bit when you put them back on the stems. As for the real AirPods Pros, taking the ear tips off looks extremely dangerous but very simple. They're sealed off so tight that it feels like you're gonna rip them off, but there's a nice pop when you take them off. But check out the inner ear speaker though. The design is so meticulous and simple and easily holds the earbuds in place, but the seal is so tight for the ANC to work well. And putting the ear tips back on is super simple. You just push it down, and once you hear the pop, it's back in and it's completely sealed off, and I just find that super amazing. Moving back up, we have the microphones all around the AirPods, and the real ones obviously have the metal grills to cover the microphones, which are used to activate active noise cancellation, as well as being used as a speaking microphone, but the TWS pair just has some black patches with a grill picture on top. And lastly, the stem tips are a little different, with the TWS pair having this weird little gap, but everything else is basically the same as the original. As for battery life, the TWS pair provides you a little less than 3 hours of playback per charge, with a total usage of less than 7 hours, while the real pair gives you 4.5 hours to 5 hours of playback depending on if you have ANC on or not, respectively, and with a total usage time of a little over 24 hours, and that's a huge difference. Moving on to the features, we know that noise cancellation is the biggest selling feature of these AirPods Pros, and I just gotta say that it's amazing. Both AirPods do have the feature to choose the different listening experiences, but only the real AirPods Pros actually changes them, which is a bummer for the TWS. To get the full experience, I suggest you wear earbuds for this noise cancellation simulation so you know what the different modes are like. It sounds exactly how it sounds if you were wearing regular silicone earbuds in your ears, and whenever you're speaking, your voice is muffled just like this. With the microphones now activated, you can hear your voice clearer, and you can hear your surroundings a lot better as if you weren't wearing any earbuds. And you're still able to listen to your music really clearly without having it to leak outside, and it actually sounds exactly as it would if you were monitoring your voice through a studio microphone. And when it comes to full noise cancellation of these AirPods, it sounds great. It's got that subtle static noise that we're all familiar with when it comes to any kind of noise canceling headphones. And you can still hear your voice very well. Audio quality boosts just a little bit because you can't hear any of your surroundings. But your voice, when you're talking in this mode, it sounds like an audio recording, but just a little bit muffled. As for audio quality, I can tell you guys that the listening experience is very similar. So both the TWS and the authentic AirPods Pros here have sensors so that if you take one of the AirPods out, it mutes the audio. But what's cool about the authentic AirPod Pros is that if you take off the other AirPod from the other ear, the audio actually switches back to your phone or to whatever your device you're listening to, and it plays from those speakers. And it's only until you put these AirPods back into your ear, it switches back to the AirPods so you can start listening back to here, which is really cool because you don't have to reconnect and disconnect in order to hear from the speakers or from your AirPods, which is awesome. The fit is very comfortable and you can barely tell the difference between the two. The noise cancellation in the authentic AirPods Pros boosts the audio quality just a tiny bit, but not that much that it would make a huge difference. As for sound signature, the TWS AirPods here have a slightly higher bass boost, while the authentic AirPod Pros have a slightly higher high frequency for clearer vocals. But the difference is so minuscule that you can barely call it an upgrade at all. Comparing these relatively expensive AirPods versus something budget like the $20 QCY QS1s, the audio quality is not so different. But in terms of quality, I would definitely probably go with the authentic AirPod Pros just because of that more subtle clarity from those higher frequencies and the subtle audio quality boost thanks to the active noise cancellation. As for a buying decision, the TWS AirPods are $45, while the authentic AirPods Pros are $250. The TWS version doesn't have ANC and is basically a regular pair of wireless earbuds, with the exception of its exterior being very similar to the authentic AirPods Pros. The real AirPods Pros, on the other hand, have really good technology going into them, like the proprietary ear tips that are really comfortable to use, and they have that active noise cancellation technology, which is really effective and really awesome to use in any kind of situation. For once, I do not recommend getting the TWS pair of AirPods Pros at this point in time. Yes, the exterior looks exactly the same and almost one-to-one with the original AirPods Pros, and even the AirPods themselves look almost identical if they're in your ear. But you're not getting any of the features that are provided in the real authentic version of the AirPods Pros, so why bother with a fake flex, right? Not to mention you also lose a whole bunch of battery life and you can't even compare the TWS version with the authentic AirPods Pros. Just get a budget pair of $20 wireless earphones for now, and maybe in the future when the TWS version does get active noise cancellation and all the other features that the current AirPods Pros provides, then maybe we have a consideration. But right now it's super early. The original AirPods Pros came out in October of 2019, and right now it's only January, so there's a whole bunch of room for research and development for those features to actually come into the TWS version, but we'll have to see in the future. But that's been the differences between the i100000 TWS AirPods Pros versus the authentic $250 AirPods Pros. If I missed anything, please leave it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.